What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to this week's BD Outdoors Sportboat Roundup. Not a lot of species can be caught right now. We are in the middle of a closure, but that doesn't mean you can't fish for species like white sea bass, yellowtail off of our coast. There's been a lot of squid at some of the islands here lately. So this is a great opportunity to do a little refresher course on how to rig up for success, whether you're targeting island yellowtail, local homeguard yellowtail, even some white sea bass at the island. So I have a couple setups here. So the first rod I'm going to show you guys, it's going to be that daytime halibut sea bass. It's your dropper loop here. So I have Seagar 60-pound fluoro tied on using a surgeon's knot. For the hook, you want to use a little bit of a bigger hook, so 4.0 to 6.0 hook, just depending on the brand. And you just tie a simple Palomar on here. This is about the minimum length that you want on this dropper loop. You don't want it too long to where it ends up getting tangled as you're dropping it down, but I would say at least a foot for your dropper loop. And you've got a couple feet of line that goes down to your weight. So your average weight is going to be anywhere, depending on the current, from 6 ounces, even 16 ounces. And again, it's just depending on the current. If you drop down very slowly and you realize that your line and your weight is flagging out a little bit too much with the current, wind it in, put a heavier weight on there, drop it back down slow. As long as your line is straight up and down in the water column, it's a lot easier to put it down in free spool, adjust where the bottom is, make maybe a couple cranks up the bottom. You want to be as straight up and down as possible. So the other setup I have here, this is that lighter 30-pound fluoro. We're going to do a reverse dropper loop. So the first thing I'm going to do here with my line, so very similar, I'm going to tie a surgeon's knot, and you don't need a terribly big loop. You're just using it to secure your weight. So just a simple surgeon's loop here, same way as if you were doing the dropper loop. And for what I don't do anything really fancy. I just pull that loop through that eye of the weight and just pass it through the weight. If I lose this weight, it's not a big deal, but again, if your line is flagging out, you want to quickly change your weight, go up in weight, but change it out so that you're not having to re-rig this whole thing. Doing it this way is a lot easier because you can just push that line through and change out the weight on the spot and then go back down so that you're in the game. So I have my weight up here, and very similarly, you're going to have a bit of a tag end, or a longer tag end. And so your hook, you can do a Palomar, you can do a uni, San Diego knot. You just want the knot that you're most comfortable with tying. So I'm going to tie a Palomar knot onto the hook, and that's it. That's your reverse dropper loop. This is perfect and a go-to, especially when you're fishing shallow water for halibut. That easy. So thank you guys for watching. I'll check in with you guys next week.